All right, everyone, welcome to the Evergreen Local KSD President Edition. Yes, a little bit different from the Evergreen Local Tri-Cities Edition, but KSD stands for Kennewick School District, which is here in the Tri-Cities. So right up the alley of the Kennewick Tri-Cities Local Edition thing. So as you guys know, well, on the Evergreen Local, we are covering all the things happening around the Tri-Cities, Benton, Franklin County, and I'm joined by KSD President Gabe. Gabe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Of course, I would say your last name, but I will butcher it, so that's why I just went with Gabe. And I have a speech impediment, and so it would definitely impede on me pronouncing your last name. And so
No
I
worries.
err on the side of caution. But okay, so I asked you to come on today because you guys there at the KSD have garnered some national headlines lately, which is great. So you guys have joined this fight against the local office of the superintendent, Chris Rechtel's office. I would love your opinion on Chris Rechtel here in a second. Chris Rechtel, Washington Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. They are going against federal law, which, as you know, if you paid attention in civics in high school, you know federal law trumps state law. But in Washington State, that doesn't apply for some reason. I don't know why, it just doesn't apply. It's crazy. So what had happened, and this was within the last couple weeks, the Kennewick School Board voted 4-0 to file a federal complaint against Washington State over policies allowing transgender athletes to compete on girls' sports teams and use female locker rooms. The argument was that the current state policies conflict with Trump's executive order aimed at preserving fairness in girls' sports by restricting participation based on biological sex. First, then I'll let you get into this in just a second, but I do first want to thank you. As a girl dad myself, 2 daughters, this is beautiful. This is absolutely exactly what we need. Keeping boys, biological boys, out of our girl spaces because they deserve to have a fair competition against their same sex, against the same gender that they are biologically, and not be impeded on by, in my opinion, and this may sound insensitive, but this is my opinion, against these weak-minded boys who can't compete against other boys. So please take us kind of through what was filed here, the complaint, what's going on, and kind of where things are at today after this initial filing.
Yeah. So first, let me start by saying I'm sharing my personal opinions throughout this podcast. So I don't necessarily speak on behalf of the board,
Absolutely.
with the exception of what we've done publicly.
Absolutely.
So let me start with this. Last year, a track season, we had a boy win a state title in a girls' event. We came out publicly with a resolution saying we do not support this. And that garnered some national news as well. And some other school districts did the same thing. So fast forward now to President Trump's executive order. We want to follow that. That's what we believe. And so we were looking at doing a couple things, and we felt like the Title IX complaint was going to be the least risk for the school district when it comes to legal risk and other things. So we decided to go that route. We did the Title IX complaint, talked about it. Everyone on our school board has daughters. Everyone on the school board has daughters that have played sports at some time.
So do any of the school board members, just kind of with that, is there anyone in the school board or even that sits in the audience that is truly opposed to boys not being in girls' sport? Like, is it just like kind of like Mark Cuban came out and said the other day, like, we're just not ready for it? Or is it more along the lines like, yeah, we're not ready for it because we don't want that to happen. We'll never be ready for biological men and biological boys in girls' sport.
I think we'll just never be ready. It's not right. It's we're affirming what I believe is a mental illness.
Yes. No, I agree. I work in mental health and I can confirm that because I've seen it firsthand. I've seen parents push it onto their children to the point where I had a little boy where he raged against his mom during an appointment, or his dad, his mom, because the parent, I'm just going to refer to them as a parent. The parent has said that, oh yeah, he doesn't identify as anything different yet, kind of thing. And this kid got livid to the point of like a full explosion. I'm never gonna effing do that. That's effing crazy. I don't want to effing be like that. I don't want to effing be like you, kind of thing. And it was just a full blown thing. And it 100% is aligns with some mental illness because it's like, let's play pretend kind of thing. And it's sick too, especially grown men.
Yeah, and when you think about it, when these young kids are doing this, I mean, it's the parents' fault.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, they're affirming it. There's no way a 4, 5, 6, 7 year old is doing this on their own. They're being pushed on it by their parents.
100%. 100%. And there's no doubt about that in my mind either, because I mean, it has to come from somewhere, right? Where do kids spend the most time? At home,
Yeah,
right? That's where these ideas start, with somewhere within the family, somewhere within in the family. Maybe it's a parent trying to live out their dream through their kid, and maybe they're only having one kid, and now they have a daughter when they really wanted a son, and they're trying to live vicariously through their kid and kind of thing.
yeah,
But it stems from the parent in some way, shape, or form. I think 100% of the time.
yeah, yeah, and it's hopefully we'll see the world come back to common sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. That's the goal of a podcast like this, is to kind of restore some of that common sense. Brandy Cruz does a great job. Jonathan Cho does a great job of just trying to restore some common sense to Washington State. And I'm not on their level, right? But they are inspirations to me, and they're great. So with this, I want to ask. So I had heard multiple times of these threatening letters coming from the OSPI office and from Chris Richter. What do those letters look like? Those threats, essentially, from Chris Richter's office.
Yeah, so I have my personal opinions about Chris Reichel.
Yeah, we all do.
I I think he's failed. If you look at everything public education, it's down the drain, right?
Yeah,
He spends more time with these social issues and doing that than he does actual stuff that's going to help school districts.
yeah.
But
No,
these
isn't
letters, so what happens is
yeah.
these letters come in and they basically tell you have to change, you have to go to what they want, and if you don't, they're going to essentially withhold funding.
And so that's it's unfortunate, right? Because it puts you guys in this really weird predicament, right? And as far as I know, there's only been 3 school districts in our state: Kennewick, Tumwater, and was it Prosser as well? I think Prosser was one, but I could be wrong on that. But I know Kennewick and Tumwater. There was a third, but only 3 school districts have actually started fighting back. So that begs the question: will, like, the surrounding area schools here, will Pasco, Richland, Findlay, Prosser, any of the other local school districts here in Benton Franklin County, are they also planning on filing anything similar to your knowledge, or is that kind of still to be seen?
I don't think any of the smaller districts will, like Findlay, Kaiby. They've got other things on their plate.
Yeah, Finley's just trying to decide if they're going to go to a 4-day school week or not. They're in cutting positions, like they got a lot other they got bigger fish to fry, right?
Yeah. And Pasco, I don't know so much about. I doubt it. Richland, my opinion, that's a hot mess over there. Their budget's a disaster.
Yeah,
They've always pushed back too against parents' rights, and they've done things in that district, I think, to maybe go more left than right.
that makes sense. That makes sense. We were just talking about Chris Rectal here, and you just brought up parental rights. But I want to show everyone something that recently happened from Chris Rectal, just to kind of know the person that's in charge of the education of our children. So this man, I don't know how he got elected. I don't know who votes for him, honestly, or who's propping him up. But he posted this on his personal Facebook against Donald Trump. So that's Chris Rectal right here, and he posted this on his personal Facebook against calling out President Trump: a super callous, fascist, racist, sexist, Nazi, POTUS. That's what he's busy doing. He's busy making these signs versus, taking care of doing his job. While here in Washington State, and I'm sure you're aware, we spend the highest, third highest in the nation, I believe, if not fourth or fifth highest in the nation per pupil. But we have test scores ranking in 45 to 50 among all states. So we're one of the highest spendings since 2019. I think we've gone up 110% per pupil in spending, but the scores have crashed to an all-time low here in the state, to where, what is it? Middle schoolers don't have 80% of middle schoolers don't have it above a third grade reading level, fourth grade reading level, and a fourth or fifth grade math level, and they're in eighth, ninth grade kind of
Mhm.
thing. Like they're still stuck in that grade that they started in when COVID hit, almost, it seems. And it's crazy. Crazy. So, what is there anything specific that Kennewick's doing a little bit differently? I know there's a new curriculum coming for reading. There's been new math curriculums implemented over the last couple of years, but is there anything specific that comes to mind that Kennewick is doing to kind of push back against these state normatives that have become the norm in the state?
Yeah, so Reichel has just been terrible. Scores have dropped. He's actually in the process of changing the scores so they look better, basically. But in Kennewick, we've adopted new curriculums.
Mm.
We've switched over our testing. So the way we test kids now, we do a different model. And I think we're really starting to focus on the academic piece of things and what works. The problem is the state pushes all this stuff onto us that takes time in the classroom. My wife's a fourth grade teacher, and she's going from the start of the bell to the end of the bell, but there's not enough time to teach the basic stuff. And so that's the problem. We do all this extra stuff in the classroom that we shouldn't be spending time on.
Yeah, because it should be math, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? Those are the things that should be being taught, the actual subject. But there's a lot of fluff to the school day, right? There's a lot of extra thing, like specials are important, and then schedules change. Like I've worked in behavioral health the last 2 years. I've worked in and out of damn near every school in the Kennewick School District, and schedules are crazy, and all over the place, and they change so rapidly, and the blocks change rapidly to meet these state standards and things like this and whatnot. And I ultimately just hurts the kids, like you're saying here. One thing that did just come to mind that I just remembered. So if I remember correctly, and I'm not sure kind of where Kennewick landed on this, but the LBGTQ plus curriculum, history curriculum that was supposed to go into effect on October 1st, 2025, that had no funding, no curriculum given to it, and school districts are just told to implement it by this date and this time. Where is Kennewick at on that? Are they actually going to be adopt? Are you guys actually going to adopt it? Did you push back? Because I think that's what I'm thinking. Where Prosser said, "No, we're not doing this."
Yeah, so we adopted our two biggest curriculums early since the law doesn't start until October. But where we are right now with that is WASDA, so the Washington School Directors Association. They're in the process of creating a policy to have school districts adopt that policy. And so we're waiting to see that. My own personal opinion, we're going to take it and we're going to push back as far as we can.
So I can expect that my daughter won't be taught, or hopefully won't be taught, any LGBTQ plus curriculum going into third grade next year. Is the hope.
Yeah, that's where we're at. And like I said, it should be going forward when you adopt curriculum. You're supposed to have all these criterias with the LGBTQI stuff.
Mhm.
But since we have adopted curriculum recently, we don't have to readopt those curriculums for 10 years, or
Oh, okay.
7 to 10 years.
It's kind of like a loophole then.
So yeah, yeah, but
Nice. I love that.
other districts don't have the money to do that, so they're going to be screwed.
Well, what does Kennewick do different then? Because we look at Richland, right? We look at Richland, and they have been in this massive budget deficit for 2 years, layoff after layoff after layoff, to the point now their next round of cuts include more paraprofessionals, but also middle school and high school librarians, middle school and high school nurses. But some of that all comes from the COVID hires that they weren't supposed to do, and the mismanagement of those COVID funds that they weren't supposed to hire people with, that they weren't supposed to give raises and things like that with, what they did anyway. So some of it's self-inflicted. Majority of it's self-inflicted. But what has Kennewick done to stay out of that budget deficit to be able to, still push back and to adopt the things they have to adopt, to find these loopholes, to not have to worry about these deficits and whatnot, and to run you know, a fairly well-ran school district?
Smart leadership.
A
I mean,
little personal shout out there.
if you look at if you look at the way that we review our budget, Kennewick, we go through it with a fine tooth comb. We ask questions like crazy, and we have a business office that understands that we want to ensure that we're not wasting any money. And when it comes to the
The Joneses.
COVID funds, yeah, and when it comes to COVID funds, they overspent. They're one-time funds. You can't give raises to teachers or raises to anybody and then not expect that to come back and bite you in the butt when the funds are gone.
Yeah, because I mean, they're one-time funds. They're not gonna be there forever. Did they think that there was gonna be more? Like,
When it comes
was it
down to, I think, with the unions in the district,
mm,
to be upfront and say, look, we don't have this extra money to give raises. But yeah, they overspent. They've got board members who've been there a long time that just haven't been keeping an eye on the budget very well.
interesting. Interesting. So it's really just good management of funds and being a good steward of, taxpayer dollars. So do you feel like each district, or let's just talk about Kennewick. We'll stick strictly to Kennewick since that's what you know best. I don't want to have you speak for other districts or anything. So is there a revenue problem? So there's plenty of bills going through the House to increase property taxes, to fund public education, fund public schools. There's a couple bills that Representative Connors has, put on the table for CTE expansion and whatnot, for CTE programs and whatnot. And then there was another bill that I just actually covered today on the Evergreen report, the big show, talking about making amendments to like standardized testing and whatnot, which I thought was interesting. I don't remember which, I think it's like 1414 or something. I could be wrong on that. But basically allowing students like all these modifications for standardized testing when standardized testing should be standardized and time, location, place, pencil, paper, all the things, but making it different. So when it comes to, I guess, the spending and the stewardship here locally, is there really a revenue deficit or is it just the managing of funds that's the biggest key here?
It's both. So the state doesn't fully fund education. And I don't expect them to do any increases or anything this year. They're going to say, well, we're in maintenance mode. We're going to keep it the same. And that's really a decrease, right? Because it doesn't account for inflation or any costs increase.
Yeah.
And so right now, what we're seeing too is we're seeing a stagnation or a small decline in enrollment in schools too. And so that's an issue.
Yeah. Didn't the special education enrollment go down? And I think it was at the February meeting that was reported that some of these numbers are down compared to last year for the Kennewick School District. Is that because more people are homeschooling, opting for different options, private schools, things like that, or just doing their own thing?
It's a combination. We've gotten a little bit, I think, stricter on how we do 504s and IEPs and those things. We want to make sure we're doing them right.
100%. Because those things cost the district a lot of money.
Yeah, that's
A
it.
lot.
It costs a ton of money. But yeah, I
So,
mean, overall, the district we're running about even to where we were pre-COVID.
okay. So the 5 year, everything's kind of resettled now, 5 years later.
Yeah, and we're actually in the middle of doing a study with the private school right now, trying to understand why people left the district.
Because we don't really have that many private school options here locally. I mean, we have a few church schools, Calvary among others, and is there a pretty big homeschooling population here locally that you're aware of that people opt for homeschooling co-ops?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a pretty significant homeschooling group here. And so we're trying to understand why people are leaving the district so we can ensure we correct those things to keep kids in our district.
Okay. Now, is there anything specific that people are saying when it comes to leaving the district? Because for me, the only reason I've considered leaving the district is, and I've considered it, I mean, honestly, with all the things going on, the more and more aware I become, but I'm fairly confident in my kids' school. They do things right over there. But the only reason I've considered is like all the agenda based stuff coming in is my biggest concern as a conservative Christian father. It's like I don't want my daughter being taught that stuff in school. And then, of course, you stack on the parental bill of rights being gutted on top of that, and it just actually advanced out of the Senate last night. So it's passed the House, and now it's passed the Senate, House Bill 1296, which had gone through a 6-hour debate a few weeks ago in Olympia. and I watched that till 2 a.m. and I fell asleep at my desk watching that. I was into it. I was live tweeting. Jim Walsh was replying to me and everything, and I was getting like replies and stuff. All like every amendment, good amendment. Like my favorite amendment, I think, was giving the student list of responsibilities. Right, like that was great. Democrats, no, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then this parental bill of rights. And so, from the school district and then a teacher perspective, is this something that teachers want to kind of have on their plate now and be dealing with? Because now it's like we're like the government, the state of Washington is putting teachers as the primary stakeholder of these kids' lives, putting themselves, the school districts, the teachers, staff as a primary stakeholder of these kids' lives, and shutting parents out of education. But last time I checked, parents are a pretty integral part of the whole education process.
Yeah, and I'll start by saying 95% of our teachers are phenomenal.
Yes, absolutely.
We have a small group, I think, that lives for this stuff. They want to be able to push their agenda, and we want to get rid of that in the classroom. And so I don't know what passed out of the Senate last night,
So what passed out was the
but
same House Bill 1296. So Senate Bill 5181 was the Senate version of it. So it's the same bill gutting the parental bill of rights. So the no notification, the
yeah.
allowing schools to provide gender affirming care, medication, mental health services without parental notification, changing the parental notification to, I want to say, a week from 48 hours, and just allowing for parents to be more kept in the dark about what's going on. If my daughter shows up and then she decides to go by he, him pronouns, you don't have to tell me kind of thing, and all
Yeah.
that stuff, which is just absolute lunacy. Because, in my opinion, my humble opinion here, is that the school district, no offense to you, and let's say your wife's my daughter's fourth grade teacher in a couple years. I don't know where she teaches, but if that works out, that'd be crazy. But let's say she's there. I'm sorry to your wife, but I'm the primary stakeholder in my kid's life, not you. I'm gonna make her decisions, not you kind of thing. And I'm going to make her decisions up until she's 18 years old and out from under my roof kind of thing. I'm that kind of parent.
Yeah.
Because where you're going to do what I say, how I say it, when I say it until you're 18 and you're out of my house and out from under my roof and I'm not paying any of your bills kind of thing. Until then, my word is law kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
And I
but
think the way
good.
I look at this is we tend to in Kennewick when we get a law or policies to us, we look through it with a fine tooth comb and we look for any places that we can push the ball forward on, right? And so we'll do that with this when it comes out. And we're actually in the middle of kind of fighting this right now with the state because we changed our policy 3211, which is regarding transgender students and parents' rights and pronouns and those things. We changed that to mirror the current Parent Bill of Rights initiative. And the states come in and they said you can't do that. I think we're at the point to say uh, sub off maybe.
Yeah.
Pound sand.
That's not fair to you guys, though. It's not fair to that 95% of teachers. It's not fair to the school district. And it's not fair to our kids that you guys have to spend so much time and resources fighting these stupid, politically driven fights day in and day out. Because I'm sure there's days where you wake up, you're like, I do not want to check my email. I do not want to check my phone because I don't want to see what kind of BS is going to come through today, right? Or you hear a ding on your computer in the middle of the day and you're like, oh my God, what now? What now? And I'm sure that's a reaction from a lot of school board members. I mean, it's a reaction from me as parents when I see a Kennewick, a KSD board brief or a KSD this or, updates here. It's like, I really hope that's a good update. Because yesterday there was a whole bus fiasco
Right.
here locally, which was absolutely insane. I think the bus driver handled that situation perfectly, stopping the bus, not moving the bus, waiting for police intervention and whatnot, because people are crazy. And luckily, no kids were harmed because no kids were on the bus yet. Um, and it's just, man, it's just crazy kind of where we're at. But it's not fair to you guys at all. It's like when you became school board president, ran for this office, and got voted in, right? It's like this isn't what you signed up for. You signed up to help make education better. along with all those 95% of teachers. And I believe 100% of those teachers, when they first started, that's what they wanted to do. They just wanted to teach. They wanted to improve these young people's lives. They wanted to educate these young minds, help mold and shape them to be good, productive members of society. And the 95% still does. And of course, 5% is going to get lost along the way because we live in Washington. I'm shocked it's not more. But Kennewick, we're a very, very good conservative town for the most part. I haven't seen any Teslas destroyed or vandalized or any Trump signs destroyed or anything like that over the last couple of years. So things have been pretty status quo for the most part. But it just sucks. It's so sad to see for you guys because it's like, imagine the things you could do with that time and those resources that are spent fighting. And imagine what the OSPI office could do, Chris Recto's office could do, if they weren't fighting all these stupid battles and they were fighting on the wrong side of these 80-20 issues, right? If they would fight on the
Yeah.
80% of issues and just leave that 20% alone, imagine the test scores, imagine the literacy, imagine the math and the reading literacy that our state would have. How, because we have such a big tech sector here, there's no reason we aren't leading the nation in all scores across the board in so many different categories.
Yeah, and the stuff they push out of Olympia directly impacts us. If you think
Yeah.
about all the gas taxes and what that costs us to run buses, the property taxes that we have to pay for all our properties, like our MSOC, our maintenance budget, the last 4 years under the Biden administration averaged $3 million more than the previous Trump administration. So imagine what we could do with 10 or $12 million over the last 4 years.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. We would probably have couple more schools, a few more schools, less burden on teachers, maybe some raises,
Yeah,
bonuses.
yeah. Yeah, and then you mentioned the bus driver thing, but one of the great things we're doing in Kennewick is we have that armed safety officer program.
Yes, and I absolutely love that. Those guys are the absolute nicest freaking guys, and they're alert. They're always moving. They're on top of their stuff. They are fantastic. I love seeing those guys because I see them out just all day, circling, 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 hand on their hip as they're walking, circling. They don't let a single freaking thing go by them at all.
No, no, and that's nobody else in the state's doing that.
Which
We're
why
do
aren't they?
we're doing that.
So where did those guys come from? Are some of those guys like previous police force, ex-military? Like, where did a lot of those guys come from?
I would say 95% of them are retired KPD officers.
See, and that's the thing, right? Every school district has that available to them, right? Every school district can call up their local police. Hey, can I get a list of retired officers that are still kind of looking for work or wanting to do something a little bit more low key? And I'm sure it was pretty easy to fill those positions with those retired KPD officers.
Yeah, we have a great program. So it's ran by Scott Child, who's the former commander for KPD. And then, yeah, 95% of them are former KPD officers, or they come to us as retired Benton County sheriffs. They're all former retired law enforcement.
That's incredible. That's perfect. That's exactly who you want.
Yep. And they do a great job of 99% of that job is creating a relationship with students and showing that police are good and they're not bad and those
The
kind of things,
kids
right?
love them. I see it
Oh,
every
yeah.
single day. Like every single day when I go to Kennewick schools, I see all the kids go up to them, high five them, hug them, and it's such a positive relationship. And it's so good because kids need that. They need that.
Yeah, and KPD's been fantastic. Chief Guerrero's been awesome partner in doing this, and it's worked well. For example, there was rumors of a big gang fight at Kamikin, and Scott Child took 6 or 7 of these guys, moved them all to Kamikin for the day, and basically stopped it from happening on school grounds. At least I hear it happened off school grounds later, but not on school grounds. So
Is that related? I mean, was that recently, just a few days ago, Wednesday of this last week, or?
no, that was end of last year.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I was thinking of another. We just had another juvenile incident in like South Richland or wherever that was, off of like Gage and whatnot over there, over by Yokes, kind of. There was like a drive-by
Yeah.
shooting, and then it was all involved juveniles, and suspected to be gang related and things like that. So a lot of details have come out about that yet. But it was like a 17 car stop. I was trying to get my daughters to soccer practice and ran into that, and I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy, but
Yeah.
um, you mentioned the maintenance budget there, and we're getting pretty close on time. I don't want to keep it too long, even though it's a great conversation. You know, I never thought about that part of it, right? I never thought about how this property tax increase would affect the school district because they're all on properties. You got to pay taxes for all those, right? And then the gas taxes, right? Because of the Climate Control Act, which is rumors the next session, or Trump could be doing something to dismantle that act, which would drop gas prices legit by 40% per gallon. But then they also want to put another, gas tax on, increase the gas tax by 6 cents come July 1st. And then other B&O taxes on top of that, and wealth taxes and all these things, and then payroll taxes, expanding this failed Seattle payroll tax to the whole state. That would affect school district because that would be, big money, payroll that they could tax. And I really don't think that they think of all these things that they're doing and how they could affect schools, but they label they're manipulative geniuses when it comes to this because they'll label, oh, this bill goes to help the schools. The money from this bill, this tax is going to help public education or public health or um don't even get me started on how they want to raise the marriage licenses by $100 to create this new DV fund, or tax social media companies, or tax dating apps, or literally tax all the fun out of Washington State.
They blow the money on stupid stuff and then they want to tax us to oblivion. Think about the insurance too. Just
Yeah,
the insurance cost. So like I said, our maintenance budget was on average $3 million more over the term of the Biden administration, and that's, I mean, that's $12 million. I
that's a
mean,
lot
that's
of money.
curriculum. That's that's curriculum for folks. That's how many paras can you put in a school for 12 million?
You're staffing classrooms three people at least per class, damn near across the district. You know, the special education programs, the autism rooms are all getting just the tier two behavior classrooms, elementary autism rooms beyond that. Like they're all getting, the a good amount of staffing to where in those classrooms it becomes 1-to-1. Like I can see it. I can see it.
It could.
Imagine the expansions that could happen. Instead of having all these portables, you could just expand the school essentially. Instead of having to be in all these portable buildings, and actually make classrooms and not stick these. And I feel bad for teachers that are out in portables because it's got to feel so isolating just being in this little portable all day.
Oh yeah,
And
for sure.
it stinks. Like there's so much that could have been done, and there's still so much that can be done with if things can actually turn a little bit, turn up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that we focus on as a board is actually getting into schools.
That's awesome.
So we visit schools regularly, as board members, and we talk to teachers, paras, principals, students, everybody, because when things come to the board, we want to make sure we have the most information to make the best decision.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that's just good leadership, right? That's just good leadership. Is you should have all the points. You should know all the sides of the story. You want those firsthand accounts because that's what actually can make a difference. It's like, oh, maybe that thing we were gonna do isn't actually good. But then you also want people to know, like, oh, wait, the school board's actually involved in here at my school, like, because these teachers probably have never seen that before in their lives.
Nope, I've heard that so much. When I go into a school, they're like, I've been here 30 years and I've never seen a board member.
That's crazy. Because isn't the
Well, how
board
do
public service, right?
yeah, how do I make the best decision on a curriculum if I don't talk to the people who've been piloting it? I
And then
mean, it makes no sense.
yeah, then you're just making stat sheet or spreadsheet decisions at that point, which you can't make any tweaks or anything because the numbers could look great, but how do you know the difficulties are having it? How long is it taking the kids to get it? How long is the acclimation process? You know, who are boys doing better at it? Are girls struggling with it, or vice versa, kind of thing, and understanding all those things and those intricacies. And I think that's a great thing that the board does, and it's needed because if you don't have those voices being heard, I mean, who's gonna know better? You're not there piloting it with the kids.
Well, let's be honest, right? When you get so many levels removed, like from the school to the board, there's a lot of stuff that gets lost in translation, right? And we want to know the good, the bad, the ugly, and how can we fix it?
Yep, 100%. And so, my question for you, last question here is, I'm not sure how it works for these school board positions and whatnot, but I see that your current term is coming up to an end here in 2026, right?
This year.
This year. Okay. So are you at like term limits for how many times you can run for board president, or kind of what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so for me, I actually announced yesterday that I'm running for reelection.
Sweet. Love it.
The board president, vice president, that's voted on every year.
Okay. So it's a yearly thing. But there's no limit to doing it, right?
No, there's no limits.
And then for you guys, like board president, vice president, do you guys also work day jobs too, or is this like your full-time job kind of thing?
No, I work out in the Hanford area and I own a business.
So I mean, it goes to show like this is just an extra thing that you're just doing out of the love of your heart. I'm not sure. Is there any like monetary value to the school board positions or?
Yeah, you can collect up to like $4,500 a year.
Okay. Wow, really,
So
really big amount there.
yeah, covers gas if you're driving around and going to schools and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure going to schools, occasional trips over to Olympia, and whatnot to represent. But no, that's really cool. I just always wondered that. I'm like, these guys also have to be working a regular day job.
Everyone on that board, Mr. Connors, he runs a big potato farm.
Is that April's husband or?
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, Dr. Miller's a orthopedic surgeon.
Wow,
Brittany, Miss Gledhill, she's a stay-at-home mom, but she works at a dental firm.
wow.
Micah runs a couple businesses.
Wow, that's incredible, and that just goes to show, like, right, like, this is public service, and you guys really are just trying to do what's best for the kids locally to make that impact from, the top down, and I really admire everything you guys are doing. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. I feel very confident with my girls being in the Kennewick School District, especially at their schools that I shared with you earlier, and it's been great. I haven't had a bad experience with the teacher. The teacher's been great, admin's been great, working third party as a behavioral health provider, mental health provider in the schools has been great. And we my agency, we love working with the Kennewick School District, except for Southgate. We need to talk about Southgate a little bit because they need to figure out they're unlike every other Kennewick school. They like to make us do all these extra forms and whatnot when it's like, come on, no, literally Amistad down the street doesn't make us do anything. Can you just, make this process a little easier for us kind of thing? But at the same time, they're great. Mr. Jones and his staff there, they're fantastic. I can't say enough good things about them. They keep my job for me, right? But shout out, I love the Kennewick schools, Southgate, Amistad, Canyon View. Those staffs do a great job. The tier two class at Sunset View does a great job. Just all these, we have such great people. We have such great people in the school district between all these schools, teachers, educators, staff, board members, great parents, great events, great engagement here locally for our kids. And it's great. It's great.
Yeah, and real quick, something unique I think for us, we're all parents of students in the district.
Yes, get in the game. Yes, get in the game, which is
Yeah,
exactly what it should be.
and KSD for me is near to my heart. I'm a product of KSD. Vista Elementary, Southgate Elementary, Highlands, Horse Heaven, Southridge, Camican. I went to all those schools. I graduated from KSD. So it's this community is near and dear to my heart, and that's why I do what I do.
I love that. And hey, it's so important that you guys all have skin in the game because that makes it more impactful because you're not only impacting other kids, but you're impacting your house and home yourself. And that makes it even better. So Gabe, just to end here, what is the best way? So if local parents are hearing this, they're like, I want to get involved, I want to go to school board meetings. What is the best way for people to get involved, to attend those meetings, to have their voices heard, and to communicate with the KSD board?
Yeah, so the best way, second and fourth Wednesdays at 5:30 at the KSD admin building there on 4th. That's our meetings. If you have questions or want to email, schoolboard@ksd.org.
I love it. And then also, as far as I know as well, if you're looking at the calendar, you're like, I don't know if I can make that in person. There is a virtual option, right? You just have to log on to the KSD website, and then there's a pop up to say join meeting at whatever time, kind of thing.
Yep, you can join remote. You could speak remotely. All of our meetings are posted on YouTube. So that's the great thing. So no matter what you hear and out and about, you could go to the meeting and hear the exact words from everyone.
Yeah, I love that it's reposted on YouTube for someone like myself that typically will go back and rewatch them, because then it's very easy to miss things, get distracted and whatnot, and be able to have that record and be like, what the heck were they talking about? Any progress or lack of progress when it comes to combining the alternative schools, or are those going to stay as their own independent schools?
Yeah, so one of my big things I've always wanted to do is get all the alternative schools there on 10th where Legacy's at. I believe we need them all on the same campus. We continue to talk about it, and I think we have some updates coming up on that here in the near future. Me personally, I want them on the same campus.
Yeah, because I know the argument against that, I'm sure you've heard it, is like, why would we put them all together when you could? What's the point of having an alternative school then if you're just going to make it one school? And giving these alternative options, because they all each offer very similar things, but also different things at the same time. So why would you then put all these kids together on one campus if they're trying to go for not having as much people around them? Now they're going to go to a campus that has all these other students around them, kind of thing. So there's definitely arguments on both sides, and I'm sure you guys are hearing those well out and whatnot. So
Yeah, and we wouldn't necessarily like Phoenix is project based. We wouldn't remove that option, but the flip side of kind of that argument is, our principal is going to four different sites to these alternative sites. Safety, if we have them all on one campus, we can have our resource officer there.
makes sense.
And we want to give them the same kind of school that you get from the big three, right? So we want to maybe put a track there and do some like, so keep the small alternative feel, but also give them some of the things that you'd get at the bigger high school.
Absolutely. No, it's awesome. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. It'll be interesting to see kind of where that goes next, and how that executes. I think it does save a ton of money because you're combining, three graduations. You're combining all these events that would have three different things into one thing. And I think you can still keep the smaller classrooms, classroom size, things like that, all together. Keep those specialized programs, things like that. The reasons why these kids opted for an alternative school in the first place, I think you can really still keep those but onto one campus. I think would be beneficial. Anything else that you want to mention about the school board, about anything going on? Wanted to give you a chance to kind of bring up anything you wanted to before we close.
No, I think the two big things coming up. We have the new superintendent starting July 1st. That's going to be a new thing for everyone, right? And then we're starting our levy discussion. And so I know the board would love to hear from the community on what's important, what's not. Because when we go to the community and say, we need your help, we want to make sure we've got the right tax rate, we're asking for the right thing. Because, I mean, you see some other school districts locally, a levy is so important.
Yeah, I mean, the levy for Finley is literally going to make or break their school week. Is literally going to make or break how they literally operate. Which, I mean, they're going to a 4-day school week. It'll be the first one in the area. So it'll be interesting to see how that's executed if the levy doesn't pass. I'm really hoping the community of Finley comes together to keep it more traditional and to keep all the staffing in place and keep everything where they have it right now. But we'll see come in about 11 days here when that voting closes on the 22nd.
Yeah, yeah. My mom lives out there, and my brother graduated from Riverview, so hopefully they can get that passed.
Yeah, hopefully. And of course, on all these things, there's arguments on both sides, and I appreciate you taking the time today, even though we went way over the half hour I said we would.
No,
But we had
totally.
a great discussion. And I just want everyone to remember here at the end that the opinions expressed today are not representative of the Kennewick School Board in any way, shape, or form. Yes, Gabe is the president of the Kennewick School Board, but he is also allowed to be his own person and not always be sitting in the chair of the school board. Looking at him right now, it looks like he's sitting in his home. So his opinions on the podcast today are his own, and they're not indicative of the Kennewick School District in any way, shape, or form. So I do just want to once again give that disclaimer. My opinions are my own, so you can come after me all you want. I don't care. Don't go after Gabe. Don't go after KSD because I heard you on this podcast talking about this and talking about Chris Rectal. Chris Rectal, if you have a problem, about this podcast, talk to me, not to Gabe. That's fine. Chris Rectal is more than welcome on this podcast. I will take any of those kooky Democrats in Olympia, OSPI onto the podcast at any time, any place. I'm ready for them, so they can come on anytime.
I mean, just go look at the Tri-State Herald comments for our Fox and Friends interview, and you'll see what we deal with.
Oh no, I have haters already, even though I've just recently started this podcast, like within the last month or so, month and a half. I see people that go through all my videos, dislike, 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 all of them. And I'm like, come on. I know it's like the same three people on one phone, each, passing around, dislike that video, go to this channel kind of thing. And it's just the same people. But hey, all engagement is still engagement, and
Yeah,
even negative, even bad publicity is publicity. But again, Gabe, I really thank you for this. This has been a
of
super
course.
insightful conversation we had today. I really appreciate it. I hope to have more future conversations with you, other board members as well, to get their insights on some of these key issues as well that are affecting our kids here locally, and then just continue the conversation. And again, if you need any help at all with the 2026 or 2025, re-election and whatnot, let me know. Happy to platform you, happy to help promote, and happy to do whatever it takes to help you and the good people of the Kennewick School Board stay in place and keep things moving.
Great, Jay. I appreciate the time.
Of course. And to our listeners, make sure you guys go and do all the things like follow, subscribe, leave a review, rate, all those things. Share it with a friend, share it with your Democrat friends, especially here locally, and let them get a taste of kind of what the school board's actually doing and what some of the things that are going on in the state actually mean for them. I would 100% recommend that to all my listeners. Make sure you engage, leave comments. Even negative comments are still welcome here, right? I welcome all the comments and whatnot. And if any other school districts are hearing this, please feel free to also reach out to come onto the podcast as well. Until next time, make sure you guys all stay evergreen.